Hello, hello, hello. No countdown clock tonight. I was trying to look something up, but for some reason, you ever try to do a search, like search for something using your camera, like camera search or camera translate or something like that? Um, you used to with your cell phone, and it'll show you, like it'll translate like a picture or something. Mine's not working anymore. I was trying to get it working and it wasn't doing anything. How are y'all doing tonight, everybody? Hopefully you're doing well. Hopefully you're doing well. Um, we'll get into this in just a quick second. Let's see here. All right. Okay. Let me pull you all back up. Stand by 1 second, folks. Sorry, we're getting a little bit of an odd start tonight. Trying to get everybody in here and everything. Give me just a moment. Okay, there we go. All right. All right, everybody. So we are going to do a simple project that's going to take us through a little lesson in design and layout. And the reason why I'm acting so odd is because I've lost y'all. I'm trying to find my tab that has the video so I can see who's popping in and stuff. Okay. Hey, John Thompson. Hey, Donald. Hey, Ronnie, Doug. How are y'all doing? And everybody else that's out there that's not popped up into the chat yet. So we're going to do a very simple project that can either, be laid out to where it can mount on a wall. It could sit on a shelf. It could sit on a desk or a countertop or something like that. But it's a perpetual calendar, and it can be used year-round, year after year, very easily to adjust and fix everything. But we're going to be laying out the calendar itself. We're going to be laying out parts. We're going to be talking, kind of setting up to being able to, cut the parts out, the Toolpath to cut the parts out, and then, they'll get assembled. And then hopefully when it's all done, you'll have this pretty cool little project, right? And it'll be something fun that you can make. You could possibly sell it, right? You can make it just for, friends or family. You can do whatever you want with it, kind of thing. But it's going to teach us, we're going to be using arrays to create rows and columns and things. We'll be using our text tools and our just shape tools and things like that. We're gonna go through and see what we can come up with. Okay. That being said, sorry about the odd little start. I was trying to translate an image, and it didn't come out. Okay. So with that being said, let's go ahead and jump over to my computer screen. And I don't have like a pre-design made up or anything like that. I've got an idea of what, I want to make, and I got kind of the layout. It's a perpetual calendar. So it's kind of there's a common layout type of thing. But we're literally going to be building this from scratch, right? So this is kind of a process of like from beginning. I want to say to end, but it's not to end because we're not actually going out in the shop and carving it right now. But it's the process of like, like literally laying it out, the design, kind of figuring things out and all that stuff. So it's not going to be a long class. Hopefully it'll go pretty fast if I stop talking and get to work. But it's just one of those lessons. It's kind of like, this is a great basic project. There's nothing advanced in this, but it's a great project for, setup, layout, design, layout, that kind of stuff, toolpathing and all. So it's going to take us from start to toolpathing, let's call it that, start to toolpathing. And just a great practice project, but also a cool project to make at any time. All right. So the size, let's go over to here. And what I'd like to do is not a rotary job for sure. It's going to be single-sided. I say that, then it's going to be a single-sided job. Single-sided job all the way around. And hey, Brooks, how you doing? Hey, I saw your email. I haven't had a chance to reach back out to you or reply to it, but don't think I'm avoiding that email or anything like that. I just literally haven't had a chance to reply to it, but it is in my inbox and it is starred. It's waiting for me to respond back. So Brooks, I'll reach out to you, shortly soon. Okay. So I don't have a particular size in mind, but I want to make this adjustable. Whatever we do, just know that you can kind of configure it to where it can mount on a wall, can sit on a desk, sit on a counter, sit on a shelf, whatever the case may be, mantle, that kind of thing, whatever the case may be. So with that being said, let's start with kind of like the wall design, and then we'll morph from there. So there's going to be 3 boards. There's going to be 3 boards, 4 boards. We're going to be using like up to 4 sheets on this. When I say sheets, it's going to be small boards and all, but they're going to be different size. So let's start off with the basic. Let's go with 12, 15. Let's go with, I want to do the, I want it to be aesthetically pleasing, but let's see here. 15, and then 15 times 1.6. Okay, I want to go the other way. 15 divided by 1.618 equals. There we go. And I want to go 3. We'll start off with 3/4. Oops. 0.75, but that's not how thick everything's going to be. So we'll do the backboard. The backboard will be a 3/4 inch board. We'll do on our other boards, there'll be different thicknesses and all. So for this one, and let's round this down. Let's kind of be kind of smart about this. 15 by 9 1/4 by 0.75. We're going to touch off on the material surface. We will start, for me, for the bottom left corner. You choose what you want, and we're going to click OK. And then from my rotary job earlier, let's get rid of these lines. Awesome. All right. Everybody. Yes, Brooks. We can do that again. Multiply, using the multiply. I've got 3 videos on there. I got 2 member videos and then 1 public video on the multiply. But we can definitely do that again. You're talking about 3D modeling and multiply. We can absolutely do that. But there are videos on the channel covering that. And I believe one of them was a public video that's open to the public. All right, awesome. But what multiply is in the chat, ladies and gentlemen, Brooks Martin is asking about multiply. It's one of the modeling combination, you know, how you combine modes, not combination, the combine modes. You got add, subtract, merge, merge low, and multiply. Multiply is a fun one, and it does some pretty cool stuff if used correctly. All right. We can definitely have another class on that for sure. Okay, so let's get a general layout here going. I'm going to start off with a simple square here. And I'm going to go 9 1/4 by 9 1/4. So let me get that in there. And I'm going to center that. And that'll be good for right now. Now, on this calendar, I'm wanting the top part. We can do the different days of the week, you know, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday kind of thing. But the bottom part's going to be the calendar, right? And I want to make sure that we have everything that we need in our main design, and then we can break it up into the individual boards and stuff like that. All right, that being said, we're gonna start off with a grid. And so we're going to have a grid of 7 columns, 7 days of the week, 7 columns, 5 rows. So we're going to start off with a circle. And our circles, these are going to get pocketed out. They're going to get cut all the way through. There's going to be a backboard or a board that they kind of lay over. And then that board is going to have engraved into it. Now, that board, the backboard that has the dates, the numbers and the dates and things like that, it can be laser engraved. Sorry, I'm losing my train of thought here. It can be laser engraved, or it can be V-carved. We're going to V-carve, light and everything. And so on the size and everything, I need to be able to fit well spaced, and everything. I need to be able to fit a decent size circle that I can actually read my numbers and stuff through. So we're going to go with a diameter of 1 inch. And that's also going to help me with figuring out my overall size and things like that and stuff. And we're going to do a, on the 1 inch diameter hole, we're going to, we got to make sure that when we space it out, I'm going to be moving this whole rectangle in these holes as I move across the numbers and all, to make sure the numbers and everything lay out perfectly, in this part and everything. Now, this part's not going to be moving. There's other moving parts, unless it's the desktop design, the countertop design, the side that stands up. The top does move. It slides back and forth. Let me show you an example of a benchtop perpetual calendar. It's not my design. It's, it's out there in the World Wide Web and things. It's not the greatest picture, but visually it'll help you kind of understand what's going on. The grid is a little bit too small and skinny for my liking and all that, and it's using squares instead of circles. But this is kind of a, let me see what you're seeing. This is kind of a perpetual calendar, and this is a sample of a kind that could sit up on the desk. And in this particular kind, which we're going to have kind of similar features and stuff, But across the months, January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, and everything, there's a slider that will slide back and forth to kind of, indicate the month, right? And then this part here can slide back and forth to lay out the proper days for that month, right? Now, on a wall mount, the front part's not moving. It's not moving and everything. There's a kind of a center part that moves. You just move it over one way or the other when you're walking by it, setting it for that month, that kind of thing. But this is a kind of a layout. This is an example of a perpetual calendar. Very simple project. They're again, it's not something I came up with and out of my mind, blank. They're out there in the world, right? They're cool projects. You can Pinterest, them and all, and there's all kinds of neat stuff. So we're gonna kind of make our little design here. All right. Okay, now on this, we got a 1-inch circle. That's going to be our kind of our opening. And I need 5 rows, 7 columns, but I need them spaced apart well enough that they're not bunched up and all that stuff. And when I slide, I got to make sure all my numbers line up too, because when I slide, everything's got to, kind of lay out kind of perfectly, type of thing. All right, so let's do this. Let's create our array first. So you draw your very first shape, and then we're going to do a grid array copy is that tool, and it's at the bottom row of your drawing tools, offset and layout, second icon in. I'm excited about this. I'm talking too fast. Let me slow down here. Second icon in from the left. All right, now I need 5 rows, 7 columns of this. Now, we have gap and we have offset, for the spacing. We're going to do a gap in between. So from the right side of one hole to the left side of the other, what's our gap and that kind of thing. Now, we have 1-inch holes, 7 across. That's 7 inches right there. Our gap and everything is going to be adding to that. So my 9 1/4 inch square might not be 9 1/4 when I'm done with it. This is just going to help me with the layout. I would like at least probably about a 1/2 inch in between. A 1/2 inch might be too much. We could do 3/8 because ultimately this is the main character of the layout. And if it's too widely spaced, it's going to be too big, but it's going to be a wall piece, so it can really be as big as we want, right? So let's go for right now. Let's do a 1/2 inch on both the spacing on the rows and the columns. And then let's create that. And there we go. And so that will give me the, layout for my parts here. And I want to take this, I'm going to center the entire rectangle on my board here. And then I'm going to take the holes and I'm going to group them together. And what I'd like for just my visual appeal, I want the spacing on the sides here, on the left and right side, to be the same as the spacing in between, that 1/2 inch. So I'm going to take my measure tool. Well, actually, I'll do a little bit better. We'll use guidelines for this. So I'm going to take a guideline and snap it to the left edge of this circle and the right edge of that circle. And then I'll right-click on the guideline. I'll create a relative parallel guide, negative, because I'm going back to the left, 0.5 inches. Okay? And then I'll do the same thing here, but it'll be a positive number, relative guide. But it'll be a positive 1/2 inch. And that just shows me where I need to bring my, grid lines too. So I can just simply stretch that out and snap that to the left there. Stretch this one out, snap that to the right. And now if I turn the guidelines off, this corner little box turns it off. I've got that nice 1/2 inch spacing on the two sides. Now, I'm also very kind of not anal about it, but I also want my 1/2 inch on the bottom too. Okay, the upper part I want wide like this because I got to put the, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday in there, right? But I want my 1/2 inch down here too. So I got a guideline on the bottom. I'll right click and I'm going down. So on that parallel guide, so it's a negative number. Down is negative, up is positive on the Y. And that shows me where I need to be. I'm going to snap that down. Now that I have that spacing there, I'm going to shift this entire thing upward. Let me turn the guideline off. I'm going to shift the entire thing upward so it's in line down here. And then that tells me how, I just need to bring this line down to the top. So that gives me my layout. So just a simple layout, 1/2 inch spacing between these 1 inch holes. Okay. This is going to be our holes that we see all of our, dates and everything through. Now, when we write our numbers out that are going to be, on this, we're going to use this. We're going to select this entire thing here. We'll group the entire thing with the rectangle around it and all. We'll group that entire thing together so that when I move it to the left to line up those numbers and to the right to line up those numbers to make sure that across, my numbers line up and all that stuff, we're moving it all at once and then nothing's changing and stuff. Cool beans. Hey, Keith Kessler, thanks for popping in. All right, so now we'll go into our text tool. In our text, on this particular calendar, we actually start with Monday instead of Sunday. So it's going to be Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, instead of Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And you can, you could do Sunday and everything, but it just matters how you lay out your numbers so that it literally lays out correctly and stuff. Because this calendar will account for every year, including leap years. So we'll have it be able to lay out for leap years too. And all, for every 4 years. I should have got a full glass of something to drink before I class. But that's okay. All right, now, so on the text here, and mind you now, keep in mind, I did 15 inches on this backboard, right, by 9 1/4 inches tall. That was just I don't have a pre-design laid out. I can change the size of the material once I get everything laid out how I want. I can change the size of the material to make sure that that I end up with what I want. And then from there, once I have a master layout, then this thing can be adjusted to, again, hang on a wall, countertops, desk, blah, 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 whatever. And it all comes on to how it's going to lay out. So on this front board that's going to have the holes cut out, this is going to be one sheet. Then there's actually going to be a back sheet, and then there's going to be a middle sheet. So that's going to be, there'll be the 3. And then there's going to be another part that does our months, which is a neat little add-in you'll see in just a minute. All right. What we may end up doing is we may end up changing the size a little bit bigger for this wall mount. For this particular design, so that we have room at the top for the little added feature that I want to add in at the top. So again, this is just a preliminary layout. So for the text, on the text height, we're going to go with for the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, we're going to go with just about a 3/4 inch tall font. And as far as the font layout, you can be as fancy as you want with this, or you can be as plain as you want. But just I don't care what font you choose, right? Just make sure it's legible. When people are seeing this on the wall, or they're looking at it on your desk or at the countertop or the fireplace mantle, that they can read clearly. So like a tight script font is going to be a little, which one's Monday, which one's Tuesday? You don't want to do that. You don't want to be that. You want to be able to say, oh, it's Monday, it's Tuesday, it's January, it's February, that kind of thing. You want to nice and clear. So I'm a fan of, in this case, kind of a it could be almost like a Times New Roman font, a square font, a font with a little bit decorative, but not too scripty. If that makes sense. Now, since we're making a perpetual calendar, I'm going to try Perpetua. Tilting, right? Titling, not tilting, titling. And we'll try that font and see what that looks like. But we're only going to do the abbreviations. Let me take a look at this font and see if I even like it. Let me get a feel for the font. See if I'm going to like it. Okay, that's too plain. Perpetua looked good, but let me look at another one of my favorite fonts. I think all right, now it also depends on if I'm doing, like, if it's going to be all capitals or capital and lowercase and all, what appeals to you visually and everything. I think proper capital first letter, lowercase other letters looks good, but all caps could look good too. So on my two choices, it's either going to be the, let me see, Cambria. No, let's go back to Castillo. So I got a choice. It's either going to be Castillo or it's going to be Perpetua. Let's go back up to the top. Perpetua is all caps. And Castillo, which did not save at the top. I hate when it does that. It should, but when I use it, when I type with it again, it'll pop it up to the main part of the list. Let me get back to it. So lowercase or capital. I'm going to go with this one. We'll go with Castillo. Let me type in all the days. Now, I'm going to do it all in one text block, and then we're going to break the text block into lines and just drag and drop them over where they belong. So that way I don't have to, it's less mouse clicks for me as far as, click, type, that kind of thing. So here I've got Monday. I'm going to hit enter. Tuesday, I think, goes TUES. WD Wednesday. Thurs is, I think Thurs is, yep. And then Fry is FRY. Sat and Sun. Okay. So now I've created what's called a text block. And on the text block, I can right click and take that text and break it into lines. And now these are individual lines. And what this does for me is I'm going to figure out the spacing that I want, above, I don't want to be too close. Like, I don't want to be too up on the hole, too close, or I don't want to be too far and everything. I might do the 1/2 inch spacing. I might do 3/8, right? Something like that. But once I find the space of 1, then I'm going to draw a line straight across, and that's going to give me my reference point that I can snap all the rest to. And then I can use the actual circles to align to the center of those. So the layout, right? So I can use the snapping, smart snapping and everything. So let me get my spacing. I'm going to take in this case, I'm actually going to take a 1/2 inch line from the top of my stomach was growling. I'm hungry. Take a line to the from the top there, and what this is going to do is it will allow me to kind of snap to that. So the center of my kind of this particular font, the center is going to be, it'll be a 1/2 inch to center kind of thing. So about like that. Now that I have that laid out, now I can take a straight line and that will give me, and the line can go all the way across, it doesn't matter, but that will give me something to snap my other words to. So I'm going to get them on the line, and then I'm going to use my alignment tool to line them up with each column exact using the smart snapping. So I can grab this and snap this on the line. Okay, just grab it at the center. When you double click on this, grab it on the center. Don't grab it up on the top of the D or the W and all. Grab it right on the center. Drag and snap it. I don't know if you saw that little action, but it kind of snaps. Let's zoom into that. When I get close to the line, it'll kind of pull into the line, So it kind of pulls. You see that bump, that snap right there? So know we're snapped into it. Now, some words are going to be longer. Some words are going to be shorter, some abbreviations. And see, I didn't grab that one in the center. I don't think I grabbed Thursday. Yeah, I did. I grabbed Thursday. Friday, I didn't grab in the center. So let's grab it and snap that up there. But some are going to be longer. Some are going to be shorter. But they're all the same text height because I created it in the same block. Well, I could have created it individual, but as long as the number is the same height. All right, so there's that. So now that's my line there. Now, I'm going to take this group that I've got going on here, and for a minute, I'm going to ungroup it. I'll group it back in just a moment. But now I can select the item that I want to align, hold down the Shift key and select the item I want to align to. And with my alignment tool, I can align left to right. So it'll pull that left to right. Monday's already there. When I click this and this, Monday's already there. Tuesday's there now. Wednesday, if I select Wednesday and this, left to right, that'll pull that center. It looks like it's a little off center. That's because the W goes out, and it comes in at an angle, so it kind of looks like it's off center, but it's not. Thursday, grab this circle, align left to right. Friday, hold down the Shift key, grab that circle, left to right, and left to right. Okay, so that's my layout. Wednesday is going to be the only oddball out. I'm going to move this to another layer. Move to layer. I'm going to create a new layer, and I'm just going to call it my day of week, DOW, Dow layout line. Dow, day of the week, layout line. Pick a color, any color. And that way I can turn that layer off for right now. All right, Wednesday is going to be the only oddball out because the leg comes in at an angle, so it kind of looks like it's visually. Like if you look at it, you know, it may look like it's shifted. It's not quite centered. It is, but though, because of the letter, it's centering those two. So that's what it does. That's it. All right. So now we've got this. Those will get V carved in, or they could get laser engraved in, right? That type of thing. But that's where they're going to be. They don't move. They don't shift. They don't do anything. Okay? Cool. All right. Now, once again, I'm going to regroup actually everything. Let me make individual groups for those first. So the holes, I'm going to group them together. G is the keyboard shortcut for group. The days, G is the shortcut for group. And then I'll select the rectangle, this and that, those three groups, and G, and group those together. So I've got two groups inside of one main group. And the reason being is because when I create my toolpaths, it'll be easier for me to do all my pocket cuts on the circles, all my V carving on the text, and blah, 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 and that kind of thing. Okay. Now the numbers. Okay. The numbers are going to be the most tedious part, because we're gonna lay them out in a way that, and we're gonna, once we get them all laid out, then we'll move that sheet over to its proper sheet and everything. Right now everything's kind of all together, but it's going to be the most tedious because we've got 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We got 10 circles, 10 little dots to deal with. We've got 31 numbers to deal with, and then we have 2 double numbers, which will represent the leap year stuff, and everything. So make sure that you guys and girls can still hear me, see me, all that stuff. Make sure there's no audio difficulties, because someone was trying to text me, so I'm not sure if that was. Oh no, that was someone thanking me. Okay, thank you. You're welcome. All right, so let's get the numbers laid out here. So again, I'm going to lay out all the numbers, and I'll box them out in one text box, and then I'll break them up into lines so I can drag and drop, that type of thing. And then, we'll get that layout that way. So what we're going to do is I'm going to do my biggest number first, which will be 31. Let's call that my biggest number, 31. And I want to see what size number I need that'll fit and look really good in the middle of the circle, right? So I'm going to type in 31 first, and I'll come down and maybe snap it to the center of the circle, and that will. I'm so sorry. The microphone's right next to my stomach. My stomach's growling because I haven't eaten dinner yet. Hopefully the microphone's not picking up too much. All right. The font can be whatever you want. I'm going to try to keep the same font, whatever I choose for my letters and my, my dates and all. But you can also be creative and use different fonts. Just don't. Normally, you want to kind of not use more than 2, 3 at the max different fonts in a particular design. Otherwise, it kind of becomes too distracting. Hey, Sylvia. All right, she's raising her hand. She's like, "That was me." All right. So the current text height that I have. Let's see what a 1/2 inch. So a 1/2 inch text height shows up really clearly I got to ungroup here for a second. U for ungroup. I'm going to select the number 31 first and then the circle last. I'm going to make sure that I'm centered in that circle. There we go. That looks mo better. All right. So a 1/2 inch tall number looks really good. It's comfortable in there. There's no, it's going to be, because this material is going to be, fairly thick, 1/4 inch, 3/8, something like that. But so I want to be able to see clearly, the numbers and all that stuff. We don't want to be too close to the edges of that circle that's pocketed out. So I like, if my double number 31 looks good, then my single numbers will look good as well. Let's say the number 2, and we'll snap that in. And again, even though I snapped it in, I like the smart snapping. It works great. Smart snapping is there. I do. Sometimes I double check myself by selecting the item I want to align and then selecting the item I want to align to. And then I go in and align to that last item just to make sure I don't move, right? So I didn't. I snapped right to the center, which is good. But want to make sure that, it's good. And so my single numbers look good too. So the double number and the single number looks good in that hole. That's going to be our height. We got it there. So now we're going to zoom out. We're going to go to our text box. And it's your number, enter, number, enter, number, enter, number, enter, number, enter, until you get all the numbers written out. Okay. So fun times. Here we go. So 1, let's move over off to the side. Bear with me just a second. Okay. And so you're awesome. Thank you. Got someone off scene that evidently heard my cry for something to drink. Probably some tea. All right. So here we go. 1, enter. 2, enter. 3, that kind of thing. I'm not going to say enter every time, but that's what I'm doing. After each number I type in, I'm hitting enter, ladies and gentlemen. And we got to do this 31 times, and then there's some other special numbers and all. So just go down the mix. Now, so I can keep everything on the screen so everybody can see, right? I'll just, so that way I can zoom in and everything and everybody can see. I'll just stick with 12 on this, and I'll do 12. I'll do rows of 12. So we'll do 12, and then I'm going to click over here, and we're going to do that again. So this one's going to start with 13. Oh. Okay, and then we'll start here and continue on. Okay, so there's my 31 numbers. Now, there's going to be 2 sets of numbers in our bottom 2 circles and all that are going to account for the leap year. They're going to be 2 numbers. They'll kind of be, we'll have them at an angle. And for the leap year, it's, you just read off, it's going to be one of those 2 numbers and everything on that particular month or what have you. But they're going to go in the bottom, holes, or they'll be over here. You'll see in just a second. But they are going to be at a they got to fit in that 1-inch hole, and they're going to be at an angle with one another, is what I'm trying to get out of my mouth. So the numbers are, we'll do it right here. The numbers are going to be 24, and 30, not 39, 30. And then we're going to have, nope, that's a lie. Sorry, 31, 24 and 31. And then we're also going to have 23 and 30. 23 and 30. So those they're not going to be a half-inch tall because they're both not going to fit in there. We'll make them a little bit smaller, and we'll just kind of we'll stack them at a little bit of an angle in our holes and everything. So, but that's going to be the two pairs on those extra numbers. That'll account for the leap years and stuff. Okay. So now let's not confuse the situation. Let's get rid of these numbers. That was just for layout purposes. I'm going to move these to a new layer. This is going to be my numbers layer. And I'm just going to go black, just for visual purposes and all on that. But that's going to be our numbers layer. And now right click on the row or the column, text, break into lines. So now each one of those are individual. Text, break into lines, and do the same thing for these two and these two. Okay, so now we're going to lay this out, and what we're going to do is we're going to group together the date, the day and the holes, and we're going to slide them all the way over to the right here. Okay, we're going to work our way from right to left. Now, the size of this board that you see right here, the white area, that white box and all, again, that's only 15. It may be longer. It may require more. It may require us to go longer and all. So this is all for layout, right? Like I said, I'm working with these numbers. These are what I just picked to kind of get me started, but everything will get adjusted once I start getting the layout down. Then I'll figure out what my height needs to be on my board and what my width and all that stuff is. Okay, cool. Because there's still a top part up here, which is going to account for our months. And we haven't even gotten that in yet. Okay, so we're going to start over here. Now, the first six rows, starting on the left of this, on this calendar, on the first row, the first 6 columns, we're going to be milling kind of like a blank. It's a blank. You can leave it blank, or you can, I like to mill it like a little circle. A little circle. So it's just going to be basically, it can be whatever size you want. I'm just going to go 1/4 inch. And I'm going to pop that right into the center of these first 6. Okay. And then my numbers are going to start from there, and I'm going to go across the board. Now, when it comes to the numbers, let me make sure nobody's asking me questions or something right now. Pizza night. Yes. Good day. Brooks, help me out with, in the chat, 2 hours and 51 minutes. Let me know what that means. Just so I know. And let me make sure I didn't miss any questions or anything. If y'all have questions in the chat to help me out, or if it's questions or anything, and you're not talking amongst yourself, put a question mark in front of the question so I can see it. I identify it. And Sylvia, that's cruel. Now, Sylvia, don't be mean to me. Now I'm hungry, and you're making pizza icons. Now I'm gonna be thinking about pepperoni pizza. All right. So anyhow, but thank you for that. All right, let's go here. Now we're going to start our numbers, and this is really gonna indicate how big my board has to be and all that stuff, because the numbers after the first 6 blanks, we start with 1 through 7, then it's weird. It's 1 through 7, then we go back to 2 through 14, 9 through 21. So you have the numbers lay out weird, but that's because it's a perpetual calendar. So wherever you slide it, the dates have to lay out proper. You know what I mean? So it's not just like 1 through 7, 8 through 10, that kind of thing. It's a weird combination. So there's 14 characters, numbers, whatever. I'll say not numbers, because those 7 of those are dots at the top, but there's 14 on each row, and there is 2, 3, 4, 5. What do I got? 5 rows. 5 rows. All right, so now I've got those circles in there, and we're going to add more of those later at the end, but now I'm going to start the layout. Here's your layout, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to start with, and again, I'm using the circles, so don't think of it like Sunday, this. Ignore the words for a moment, right? I'm just using the circles to help me with the layout, so that way, no matter where this part slides, everything centers it. It aligns perfectly with the circles, the rows and columns, right? So let's start here, and we're going to grab and pop this in. And now that I have that laid out, I can take this, right, this, and I can go ahead and move it over. Move it over and snap it to here, because I got to lay out my 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right? So I'm just using the grid here to help me with my layout, so I can snap my holes. And again, my whiteboard at this point, ladies and gentlemen, is not the right size. It's not the right length. Okay, so just know that. So bear with me. So I'm off the board, and it's intentional. Everything will lay out perfect in just a moment. All right, so let's get our numbers laid out. We're going to go 2. We're going to grab the 2 and snap it to the center there. And literally, it's just make sure you're grabbing it right on that center, that little center square, right? Make sure you're grabbing your mouse will change to the little circle with the dot, the little bullseye, right? So when you're zoomed out and stuff, because you got to be able to see what you're doing all, just make sure when you hover your mouse over that center that it changes to that little bullseye. Hold down your left mouse button, drag and snap it to the center of the circle. Okay? Do the same thing and work your way down. And I was off by 1 hole. So let me I'm going to grab it here and move the whole thing over and snap it to there, right? Do you kind of get what I'm doing? Snapping it to line it up, there, because I need this. This has got to be 7. There's got to be 14 items, or not 14 items, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then 7, that's 13. So 13 items. So 7 goes here. Okay. Now, this is the important part. This is going to move back to the original position because I'm working on my next row now. And again, no, I know I'm off the board here, and if it makes people here, just so it's not confusing, I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. Let's go 20 for right now. right? Just to get it on the board. There we go. Okay. So now the second row, this is the confusing part to some, when teaching this and everything, but the second row doesn't start at 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. No, we go 2 through 14. Okay, 2 through 14. So we already have 2. I'm going to hold down the shift key. 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 laid out, right? So I'm going to hold down. I've got them all selected. I held the shift key down. Now let go of the shift key. Let go of the mouse. I'm going to hold the control key down. Let's double click first. So put it right on the pink and double click. I'm going to hold down the control key and I'm going to move my mouse over the 2. And, I'm just getting, over the 2, and you may not always be centered and all that stuff, but this is my center line here. So I'm just grabbing it right there, holding the control key down, and now with the control key, I'm dragging my numbers in. Now, this is important, okay? I did not lay out perfectly. I'm not centered here, okay? I'm not centered. But I got 2 ways that I can do this. Number 1, I can one by one, I'm going to do this one by one. I can do this. I can come in here, select that and that. Sorry. I can come in here, select this and move this over and snap it right there to the center. Grab this and move it and snap it to the center. I can do that for each one, right? Or I could have, let me undo this. Or because the center of this selection, technically, hold down the control key, is the center of, these holes and stuff and everything. I can get these in here, hit G for group, and they're grouped. So now if I hold down the shift key, or I'm not going to hold the shift key, I'm going to drag my mouse from right to left. If I drag my mouse from right to left and select those and hit G for group, I can select these numbers and these circles and I can align them left to right to the center. Right? Whatever gets you from point A to B is what gets you from point A to B. Now, we came over here, we selected, since these are already laid out, we selected them. The control key allows me to drag a copy, right? So that's a copy, not the original. That's what the control key did. And then when it was moved over, which this is, I'm not going to use these same numbers on this third row, but when I moved it over, I snapped to the center of the side of one of the circles. G allowed those numbers to be grouped together so that when I click one, they're all selected. And then coming here right to left allows me to just drag my mouse across the top of the circles to select them. G again allows me to group those circles, and now I have 2 groups. And so I select the one group, hold the shift key down, select the group I want to align to last, and then I can align left to right, right? So it's just a way to, there's a few keystrokes in there, but that's how you can get it done. Okay? All right. So let me get rid of all this extra crap. Okay, so now we got our 2 through 7. Let's take our circles here. And I've got the circles. I had them ungrouped for that alignment. So the only thing that I got to do is make sure that I select this grid null and regroup it, because it's my grid that I'm using to align to, right? So it's my grid that I'm using to align to. All right, so let's continue on. So now we have 8, grab it in the center, and just work your way through your numbers. And eventually, they'll all be laid out here. Now the next row, which we'll get to in just a second here, a brief second. And again, if you ever feel that you grabbed a number and it doesn't look quite aligned, that's all right. Select the number, select the circle, and align it to center, and everything, and pop it back in. So 2 through 14 is the next one. Okay, that's our next line. So that's that. Now the third row, this is the perpetual calendar, laying it out. This is where the confusion lays in. But the third row doesn't start with 15. It starts with 9. 9 to 21. So another 13 items, but it starts with 9. Okay? So once again, I'm always using the first hole here, and I'm dragging the first hole and aligning it to the center of this circle, right? That's my back and forth. Now, what if someone said to me, Laney, why not just make a copy of, since we have the circles and all laid out and everything, why not just ungroup that? So this is me being someone from the outside asking me a question that I'm asking myself, right? So Laney, why not turn off the letter, ungroup everything, turn off the letters. They don't need to be selected at this point. They can stay there. And why not just group that together and then hold your control key down and drag a copy over now that you have everything, laid out. Why not, hold your control key down, and that way you don't have to keep moving back and forth. And I say to that person, that's a great idea. So let's do that. All right. Okay, now let's now understand something. I did not line up perfect. So let me grab this again. Let me grab it in the middle and snap it to the middle. How I knew that I didn't line up perfect is my lines. I could see the double lines. They were not spaced, and my upper line was not on the top, right? But so this row, just know now on this group, it's fine. It's grouped together, doesn't matter. But these are overlapped right here. Okay, but that's good. That's fine, right? So yes, I don't have to keep moving back and forth. I just need my circles laid out, right? But we're not. When it's all said and done and all the numbers are laid out, that gets deleted. We don't keep them. So whoever asked me that question, great job. That's exactly what we want to do. So that way we don't have to keep dragging the grid back and forth. I was just trying to keep it simple, but this is even simpler. So now my next, my next set of numbers starts with 9, right? So I'm going to select these. Oh, my nose is itching. I'm going to hold down the control key, double click on them first. I'm going to hold down the control key, and I'm going to come in here and snap to the side of one of these. Okay. G for group. I let go of the control key at that, but once I dropped it, G for group to group those numbers together. And now I can hold down the shift key and select this, not that whole grid. Hold on. Let me ungroup everything. I can select this group of numbers, hold down the shift key, select this group of circles right here, each row, and then align left to right. Right? Now, something is amiss on that one. And what is at a miss? What is at a miss is I have double numbers and I have a single number. So it's off by that one digit. I'm shifted to the left. So no problem. I just need to ungroup those circles, select the numbers, ungroup the numbers, turn off this circle and this number for a minute. I can turn off the circles for a moment. G for group to group these numbers back together. Reselect just these 4 circles, G for group, and then I can come in here and align left to right. 9 and the circle by itself align left to right, right? And the reason why it didn't align perfectly the first time is because the 9 is a single digit, but 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 were double digits, and so it shifted. So now I won't have to do that on the next row because they're all going to be double digits, right? So that was the only reason why the align to center didn't work the first time. So it's things like that you got to catch when you get into a routine and you're like, oh, I did that for the first 2 rows and everything was fine because they were all single digits, right? So when something goes amiss like that and you're like, whoa, okay, how come it didn't work that time? You got to understand why it didn't work. And that's why it was off by the 1 digit because of the 9, right? That kind of thing. All right. So now these next 5 circles here, I can go ahead or next circles here, I know that these circles here are going to need to be, I'm going to use them for alignment on the next one. So I'll just align them and hit G for group. I'll select these circles. And actually, that's a lie. I won't select those 2. But I'll select these circles and I'll G group for them. These 2 are going to be special at the end. We'll get to that. All right, so 14 is where I stop. So now we come back over to our numbers. Snap and just keep working until we get all of our numbers laid out. Double click, grab it in the center, snap it to the center, right? Work your way through. And hold on, baby girl. I know we'll go outside later. Classes, it'll be done in a second. All right, stick with me, ladies and gentlemen. We're an hour in, and we're getting through this, just at the pace that it goes with all the explanations. But it will, trust me, it's a fun project that, once you know how to lay out a perpetual calendar, as far as, this number layout, right? The dots, the 7, blah, blah, blah. Once you get all the layout done and everything, then really how you design it, you can look at other perpetual calendars on the market and all that stuff. You can kind of get some ideas and inspiration and stuff and everything. But this is what make this layout, the number scheme and all, is kind of what makes it work, right? Now that being said, had I started the week out with Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, right? That would change the way these numbers lay out. And the for the why did I just lose my own word? Perpetual calendar. God almighty. For the those perpetual calendars where the day starts with the Sunday. Sorry, my microphone. Does it really change? Let me think about this and let me think about it a second. Does it change if I'm sliding this back and forth, I'm either starting with Monday or I'm starting with Sunday. So that just means I'm sliding it further or less. So no, I don't believe it would change. I don't believe it would actually change the numbers. I think the numbers, how we're laying out these numbers will always be the same no matter what the perpetual calendar is. All that changes is when you slide the card over to lay out over the numbers, you're instead of it being Monday, it's Sunday, next row. So you're not sliding over the full. Am I saying that right? I think I'm right. So yeah, so this will be the layout for the numbers. And once we have this layout, then really any kind of perpetual calendar design should be fine. So I don't think it changes the numbers. No, I think it's just the way the things slide over and all that stuff that changes. Okay. So now on the 9 through 21, that's that third row. So now we're going to have 16 through 28. And I shouldn't, it's easy to figure out. Well, it should be easy to figure out, but here you see the 16s on the side of this line, right where the overlap starts, right? So you notice the pattern, it was, 1 through 7, but then it was 2, right? It started with 2 and then 9 and everything. So it's that next number, that's the pattern. You can see, you should be able to kind of identify the pattern here. We've been copying these numbers, so it's 16 through 28, right? So these are the numbers that we copy over. So you select them with the shift key, click on, double click over one of the pink areas so it highlights, hold down the control key and drag. I'm going to snap this in place. G for group, so it groups those numbers together. I can hold the shift key down and select this group because I grouped it earlier, right? And then align left to right. Right? Bingo. Give me a thumbs up on that one. All right. So now we continue on. 22. Double click. Grab and snap into place. Okay. $26. This one should end at 28. Now, the only difference, all right, the only difference on the last row, this last row here, it's still going to be 13 characters going across, okay? But the only difference is the last 4 on this side, and everything are going to be this. We're going to end with 4 dots, okay? So I'm going to borrow 4 of these dots, hold down the shift key, 1, 2, 3, 4. I'll grab it right in the center, hold down that control key, and 1, 2, 3, 4, we'll snap it right there. So those are going to be dots. They'll be blanks, okay? All right, cool. Now, sometimes on some calendars, people just leave it blank. Some people put dots, so each hole has something in the middle of it. Whatever you want. I like the dots, but anyhow. Now, we have 29, 30 and 31 are our next numbers, but now we start, the next row is you would think that's going to start with 23 through 26, and that is correct. That is 100% correct. So I don't want to confuse you. I'm going to grab 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, right? I'm going to hold down the shift key. I'm going to let go of the shift, double click on it, and I'm going to hit control now. I'll grab it right here and drag it down. I'm going to snap it to the side here. Everything's kind of staying the same. I'm going to hit G for group. That control key allowed me to make copies.
I'm going to select this group of circles. This group isn't grouped together, so this group is, right? So I'm going to ungroup it. I'm going to add these two in. You'll see in just a second. We got to modify these first two. But G for group. So I'll grab this group. Hold down the shift key and click on that circle group and then align to center. So we're there. And let's finish it off real quick. 29 goes in place. 30 goes in place. And 31. Okay. All right. So now that's that. And then the last four of those circles, right? So now, important, we got to account for the leap years and everything. So remember that 23 and 30 and that 24 and 31. Now, of course, I've got the numbers upside down, right? So it's kind of like this. But that 23 and 30 go in this circle, and the 24 and 31 go in this circle, right? So I don't really need the 23 again and the 24. I've already got them right here. But ungroup so I can select them one by one. I need to be able to fit a 30 in there in the first circle and a 31 in the second. So I need to make them smaller, and I want them at a little bit of an angle too. So I'll make this smaller because 30's got to fit in here also. I need them kind of, I need them to kind of fit. And then 31's got to fit in with this one in here. So they're going to be smaller. So I'm going to take the text height, which already is at a height of, if I go to my text box, it's got a rough text height of about a 1/2 inch. And I'm going to reduce it down to 1/4 and 1/4. So I can click on this and I can change this to 0.25. That's 5.5. 0.25. I'm going to move this up here. And I'll do the same thing with the 30. 0.25. I could probably go bigger, but let me get the layout first, and then I'll figure out if I want to go 3/8, 1/4, whatever. But I'm going to lay this out kind of almost like a little bit of a diagonal. And I'll get it centered. Yeah. So I can go a little bit bigger. I should be able to go 3/8 and 3/8. Let's see. 0.375. Let me see. .375. I don't want to be too close to my edges and all that stuff. You know what I mean? All right, let's go. Let's kind of meet in the middle here. So 0.3125. We'll go 5/16. Yeah, that'll be ideal. I like it already. All right, like it already. Okay, so 5/16 will be what these two numbers are. We'll do that same thing for the 20 and 34, but I want to move this over. I want to move this up a little bit. And then I want to select these two items as a group, lay them out however you want, but I just want a little bit of a shift. Now, somebody to say, what about just lining up the 3s, and everything, and I could, line up the 3s kind of thing, right? Something like that. But ultimately, that's fine. But ultimately, I want to select both of these, hit G for group, so they're grouped together now. I want to select the circle. Not all the circles. Make sure they're ungrouped. So this, I want to select just this single circle right here. Oops, hold on. Got to group my two numbers back together. G for group. So they're one item now. Circle, hold the shift key down, select the circle last, and align to the center, right? That looks good. Okay. I got plenty of room. I can read the numbers. I got plenty of room on the edges. That's fine. All right, let's do the same thing for the 24 and the 31. So go back to our text box. We did 0.3125, 5/16. Okay. Now on this one, I'll just try to, align the, the 3 somewhat under the 4. Select both of these items, G for group. Hold down the shift key, select this circle, and align to the center of that last item. Okay. All right, now on this one, let me hit U for ungroup. I just want to back it. I just want to back away from the edge a little bit because of the 1. So I'm going to just bump this with my right arrow key once, and then with my left arrow key once. Oh, my OCD is going to kill me on that one. Let me think about this for a second. Okay, I'm actually going to hold I've got this centered. I'm going to hold the shift key down with both of these items selected, and I'm going to bring this in just a little bit. Now I need to match. I'm terrible about this, but I need to match this, right? So think of this as a square now, right? There's a square that surrounds this, and that square, if I look at the size, is 0.6585, 0.6461 roughly, right? Kind of thing. I'm going to go with height being my main contributor. So I'm going to copy that number. I'm going to select both of these numbers now, and I'm going to paste that in here and click apply just to bring that down, right? Just to keep those. I'm sorry, just got to keep them because I'll be like, oh, driving me crazy. Okay. Decrease the space between the 3 and the 1. Yes, I could decrease the space between the 3 and the 1. That would require me to go to my text tool, come in here and, decrease that spacing. Oops. Kind of thing. I could definitely do that. I could definitely do that. All right, but let me get this centered again. G for group. But yes, who said that? John Thompson. Yes, could absolutely do that. Center. Okay. So that is the layout. Now, very important, I no longer need this grid. So I'm going to hit delete to get rid of it. Okay. And I no longer need these 2 numbers. Hit delete to get rid of it. So that is the layout of my numbers. Okay, the numbers. Now, these the spacing, I believe I'm actually good. I believe I actually lucked out. If I measure horizontally from the edge of my board to the center of this first dot here, I'm at 1 inch. And if I measure from the edge of the board to the center of this one dot here, I'm at 1 inch. Okay. So I don't need to do anything with that. So that's going to be my layout for that middle board, right? So that's sheet number 2. All right, so let's go ahead to our sheets and let's start getting things organized. So sheet 1, that 20 by 9 1/4 by 3/4, that's going to be, we'll call it sheet 1, but this is going to be my number sheet. Number sheet. And ladies and gentlemen, sheet is board, right? Your number board. And the number board is going to be, again, it could be laser engraved or it could be V-carved, but it's not going to be very thick. This is going to be your thinner part of your material. So you could do it out of like a Baltic birch plywood and all, but it just only needs to be maybe 6 millimeter, 1/4 inch, or 6 millimeter Baltic ply, or whatever the case may be. Because this on the wall, this is the number board is actually going to be the part that moves. The main frame part and all is what mounts to the wall is not going to move. It's the number part that's going to move. Okay, so that that looks good. That's good. That's good. Okay, so here on this, I'm going to add a new sheet. And for this sheet, it's going to be the, I'll call it the days and circles, or whatever. Days and circles, or we can just call it days, right? Because that's what the circles represent. But that's okay. And then we're going to have another duplicate of that sheet after I change the size. The size is, we're going to keep this size right here as this rectangle right here, which is 11 by 9 1/4, 9 1/4. And so on that days and circles, we're going to edit that. And it's going to be 11. And there's going to be 2 of those boards. And the backboard is going to be 3/4 inch thick. The front board, you can mill it down, surface it down, whatever you want, but it's not, we don't want a big old 1.5 inch thing sticking off the wall. It can be, 3/8. 3/8 would be a nice, 3/8. You could also go 1/4 but it's going to be solid wood, not plywood on this one, because we're going to do solid wood on the main body. But it's going to be thinner. The backboard is going to be your thicker part. So this one's back. So we're going to edit, or sorry, not edit, but we're going to add new. So it'll base it off that sheet, 11 by 9 1/4. This is going to be my main body back. All right, let's see. All right, stick with me, ladies and gentlemen. We're an hour and 28 in, but hang with me because this is a cool little project. We're going to get these sheets, move everything over to their appropriate sheet, get them laid out, but then we're going to start creating the months. The months is going to be a little bit of a cool little add-on and everything, so we will get that. Now, the month little add-on that we're going to do is going to change the size of this day sheet and whole. It's going to make it a little bit taller. We're going to make it a little taller, and you'll see why in just a moment. Okay. That's good for right now. Number sheet. Let's go in and edit number sheet. And let's make that 1/4 inch. 0.25 on the thickness. Okay. All right. Now the front part here, like I said, it's going to be thinner. So let's edit that. Let's just call that for right now. We'll call it 3/8. Let's go 3/8 for now. All right, cool. Okay, so now let's go back to our main sheet here, and let's copy or move things over, not copy. So all the days all the circles we're going to move these to the day and circle sheet. Okay. All right, our number sheet is there. Now the grid, let's go over to the day and number sheet. And this grid right here, we're going to copy that to the main body back. So we got that rectangle there too. Okay. Now, this will be our main body, but let's start laying out for the days. Now, the days are pretty cool. Let's add another sheet. Well, we'll work in this one since we can see what we need. But for the days, sorry, I'm moving around like that. For the days, we're actually going to have a kind of a circle here, and it's going to be a bit of a cutout. And let me figure out where my center is. And remember, this board's going to be a little taller, right? So we're going to come up to, I want a decent amount of spacing. And I also want a decent size. Now, on the months, we can do full-on month word or abbreviation, either one. Abbreviation is going to probably be the better way to go versus the full word, but it really depends on what you want to do. But I'm going to lay out just the abbreviation. So Jan, let's again, I'm going to go back with the half-inch tall text for right now. We'll change the text height in just a moment once I kind of figure out what my layout is. But Jan, Feb, April, May goes the whole word. June, July, August, Sept. Okay. So now this is going to get broken up into individual lines. And I think I'll be happy with the size of the word. I think that'll be fine. The half inch is going to look good. All right. So now in this area here, we're going to have a circle, and the circle is going to spin at the top. And you're going to be able to turn that circle. It's going to spin, January, February, March, April, May, June, July, that kind of thing. So there's going to be a little notch out when we got to make our board the right size and all, but there's going to be a little notch out that when we turn this circle, you'll see the month, here. So first, before we do anything, let's get our board size laid out. And whatever we do to this board, we have to do to the back board too, as far as size. So let's go back to our sheets. And let's edit this, and kind of happy with that spacing. I just want it a little bit taller. So I'm going to go 11 1/4, like a 1x12. No. No, that would be stupid. Hold on a second. I don't need that much. I just want a little bit of room. 9 1/4. Let's go with, so I don't want to, I'm trying to minimize waste. So 9 1/4 would be a 1x10 board. And then it jumps to 1x12, which is 11 1/4. I really only need a 10-inch board. So you're just going to have to figure out what to do with that other 1.5 or whatever for waste in your scrap pile. There's no such thing as scrap. It can be used for something else. But we'll go ahead and we'll leave it at 11 1/4. Not 11 1/4, but we'll use 11 1/4 board. But we're going to be cutting this project on we're going to be cutting it down to a 10. Yeah. I just need, oops. Hold on. Always click apply. I just needed that, or add. Okay. I just needed that little extra 3/4 of an inch. So change this one to 10 also. Okay, wonderful. All right, now what's going to end up happening is on our board, we're going to have a cutout, here, kind of like a U-shaped cutout, so we can see the word. So this is where I said you can use the full January, February, March, April, or you can use the abbreviation. It really just depends on you. It doesn't matter at this point. It could be whatever you want. And the let me size this circle up. So the words are going to be showing up like right in here. So that's good. Okay. So I've got to be able to lay out 12 of these words. So that's going to tell me how big my circle needs to be. My circle is probably not the right size right now. Let me see. I'll stick with that for right now. That's going to be my circle. Okay? All right. We're going to draw a line right at the top of this circle. And the doesn't matter how long it is or whatever. Just draw a line. We're going to center it on that circle because we're going to make 12 of these. These are going to be snapping points. Snapping points. So we're going to take this circle right here, and this circle has a known center point. So if I go to my circular array and everything, the item that I have selected, this is the center point right here. Negative 4.7921, 6.4751. That's based off of this, this calendar here. Well, let's say, so I didn't have this weird odd number and stuff like that. Let's say I move this over to, 4 and 6 down here, right? Let me get on 6. Let me go to the move tool. Absolute. I want negative. I want a positive 6. The center to be a positive 6 and negative 4. Okay. That way it's easy for me to remember those two numbers when I'm creating this little array here. Snap that to the top center. All right, select that line, hold down the shift key, select that circle last, go to the circle array tool. Actually, I don't actually need to have the circle selected, just the line. 12 copies at -4 and 6 on the Y. That's my center point. 12 copies around. That's going to give me my 12 points here. See that? Okay. Now, very important. Select all that and hit G for group to group it together. Now we're going to go into the rotate tool and we're going to make a relative rotation every 30 degrees. 360 divided by 12 is 30, right? And if you need to do the math on that, 360 divided by 12 equals 30 degrees. Leave that number in there because what we're going to do now is we're going to snap our word to that. And like I said, you have a little bit of room. You could do, I like the 3 initials because then I don't have to warp the letters, the words and all. But we can, and I'll show you how to do that to get to where the curve actually, where the text actually curves with it. But here we go. We're going to select this, okay? And we're going to rotate it 30 degrees by just clicking. You don't change it, you just hit apply. Drag the February and snap it to there. Select this. And make sure now that we are staying at our -4 and our 6 over here. You know, let me undo that February real quick. Bear with me. Our rotation center on this needs to be that 4 and 6, -4 and 6. We're rotating around that center point. Okay. Snap February in place. Select this whole thing again. Make sure we're at our 4 and 6. I'm just grabbing the text, moving it over. Stick with me, ladies and gentlemen. I know it's 10:15. We're getting through this. Rotate. Rinse and repeat 12 times. Oops. Again, just selecting everything. Now, there's been a little bit of a shift right here. So I'm going to back up one because I think it was on the June. Yeah. My June, I didn't have the June quite snapped to the center there. And when I grabbed it, I shifted it slightly. So it's little details like that, you know, just be mindful of what you're doing when you're doing rinse and repeat kind of stuff. Just make sure that, you know, your numbers change. And if they did change, then something occurred. Something, you know, you didn't quite snap to the center point here. You didn't quite grab it in the center. You didn't quite do this. You didn't quite do that. But make sure your rotation doesn't change because then that throws everything off. You know, this thing is supposed to rotate on a pivot circle. And if it's off, it's going to be odd. Two more. Now, just if, all right, last one. Okay. While we're here, let's go ahead and make a little 1/4 inch hole for our center point. So we have that little pivot hole. We'll see that in a minute. All right, so now, oops, sorry. Can y'all still hear me? Okay. Let's say, for instance, that you were doing smaller text, the full word, December, January, you know, all spelled out and everything. at that point, the letters would need to curve with the circle. Okay? And so your at the point here, you would find, we have our 12 spaces here. If we ended up doubling it up, that would create, the dividing lines between these two, right? And those dividing lines at that point, I can get all my words laid out. They're all going to be straight, but I can do all my rotation, get all the words snapped in place. But then I would have an extra step of going back in, and let's pretend that, let's pretend I have a dividing line here. I would be going into node editing to that dividing line, and I would be cutting the vector on the two dividing lines so that I have this arc right here. And then let's pretend that on my December, let's pretend that it was fully spelled out. And of course, we'll scale it down to size in just a minute, but we would select that December, we would select that arc, and then we would be doing the text on a curve. And then it would custom fit, and we want to be on the curve, right? And it would lay that out, and it would curve it. And we would have to do the next thing. Cut the, we'd have our center here and our center there. Cut that curve. Cut that arc all the way around. Cut that arc all the way around. And then, all your words would be spelled out. January, February, March, April, May, So when they're all straight, they're going to kind of overlap each other. But notice what happened when I was, bear with me a second. When I was here, right? And the text, of course, is bigger than that arc. When I went into the tool, the first thing it told me was select the text is too long to fit the arc. So I click OK, and it'll size it appropriately. And then, of course, I want to be on the arc, right? So it'll scale it down appropriately. It'll scale it to fit that curve. It'll center it in between that curve, right? And it would do that for January, February, March, April, May, June, July. So even though my words were a half-inch tall and all that stuff initially, when I lay them out, they're straight and they're overlapping on the ends and all that stuff. But as I go through, and let's pretend that January, right? So once again, let's pretend that January was spelled all the way out. January. Okay. And we would also pretend that it's centered and all that stuff. But we would come in here, and on our arc, let's pretend that we have our, our cut line. I'm just going to do it right here just for kicks and giggles. But we would have those lines because we'd bring 24 around instead of 12, and that would give us our center lines. But let's say I cut the vector here. So I would select that January and that arc, and it would tell me when I go into the curve tool that it's too big to fit the curve, and I'd be on the center, but I want to make sure that I'm spaced, right? So I need to make sure that I'm spaced. I can't be right up on top of it like this. So I got to make sure that I make sure that I give myself a space when I'm cutting my line, my little arcs. But it'll size it down to fit that if you wanted to do that. Now I'm going to hit undo. Okay. I don't need to really curve the text when it's the abbreviations. It's fine the way it is. It doesn't necessarily need to curve. Now, if someone's like, but I really want it to curve, I want it to flow a little bit, and not be so straight, sure, you can do that too. Whatever you want. Now, at this point, I don't need the lines. They serve their purpose. I can keep them in for design layout in case I need to change something, or I can decide to delete them. Whatever I decide to do, I either at some point in time, I'm either going to put them on another layer and turn that layer off, so they're there and they're, I can pop them back on if I need, but they do not get, you got to remember not to have them selected in the toolpath. But now this, I'm going to G for group that together. All that's one group now. I'm going to make sure that all of this is grouped together, so that way I don't have to, like because things are going to be overlapping right now, and I want to make sure that I don't have to deal with a bunch of fiddly stuff, select this, deselect that, select this, and all. So this is all grouped together, so all I have to do is just one click to turn it off or on. You know what I mean? On or off, that kind of thing. So now, here, I'm going to align the center of December up, and I'm just going to have it, where I don't want to be like too far up, too far down, or whatever. I just want to kind of be nice and just laid out. At this point, ladies and gentlemen, at this point, this line is not going to be in the carving, right? So imagine, let me delete that for a second. I'm going to have this kind of spacing right here, okay, between the letters and the top of that word, right? I don't need to be that high up. This can be down some, whatever. It doesn't need to be that high up, is all I'm saying. When I undo and put that grid there, or that rectangle and all, just to kind of represent where this, pocket's going to be, there's a pocket that's happening there. You think that, I've got this, I've only got this much room to work with, and that's not true. You've got all of this room right here to work with. Now, what's going to happen is there's going to be a pivot. Let's say I use this circle as my pivot point there. So this is going to be pivoting. It's going to be rotating, and as I turn the letters, when with my thumb and all, as I turn this, it's going to, have the January, February, March, April. When I turn the month, that's going to be pointing up, right? So that's going to be that kind of thing. Now, on here, this is going to be the only window that's showing on the front. So I can either cut a square out on my front board, where I can see, or I can cut a half circle out, or whatever the case may be. And again, my board actually doesn't need to be, I could probably stick with the 9 1/4 board. Yeah, I don't need to change my board height. What was I thinking? I do not need to change my board height. So let me go back there. Don't even know what I was thinking. So I can stick with my 9 1/4 board, my 1x10. This will make sense in a minute, because this whole the upper part of the circle and the words is going to be, it's not the same board. So this can be my 9 1/4. This can stay that 9 1/4. That's good. This one too. So I don't have to have any waste. Yay! All right, ladies and gentlemen, I know it's getting late. I know it's getting late. We are 2 hours in, and sometimes your brain gets exhausted. But right now, we're 2 hours in and haven't saved a lick of anything. So I'm going to hit save as real quick. Always save early and save often. Don't do what I do. Gosh forbid the power would have went out. I'd have lost it all, right? So the Perpetual Calendar. Okay, so on this front board here, again, we're going to have just a window that's going to get cut out. It's going to be kind of like a half circle, so that, and it's going to be a notch cut right all the way, cut through. So when this disc, there's going to be a disc with these words engraved in this circular pattern on this disc. It's going to be mounted inside the assembly. And so when we're at the top, when we turn this disc, right, we're going to turn, and each of the words are going to show up in this little cutout notch. Okay? And so the most important thing to me at this point is that whatever size my notch is here that I cut out for the preview window, if you will, is that all my words show up and, they're not too close. So I'm going to just rotate this. And bear with me just a second here. 5.5 by 5.5. That's good. I'm going to rotate this that 30 degrees. And I'm just going to keep hitting apply. And I want to see how my letters show up in that circle I got there, because I don't even know if I have that little arc centered or not. September fits okay. That's 4 letters. October, November, December. So they all actually fit really well. They all fit really well. And they all look good. Let me go around one more time. There's a okay. All right. That all looks good. May, it looks like there's a little jump in May because May is a little bit bigger because it's the full word, but the M, let me make sure that May, yeah. Okay, that all looks good. Let me rotate that back around. All right. So technically, I can be pretty well, I could go a and bear with me. Get rid of that arc. That arc wasn't centered or anything like that. It was overblown. So this would be my cutout right here. And once again, now that I have that laid out there, once again, just to verify, measure twice, cut once, all that good jazz. It's a relative move, 30 degrees. Let me just come in here. Wonderful. Everything fits in there. So that's going to be my cutout. So now I don't need a full circle for the cutout. I can go into November because it's just going to be a profile cut, cutting that out. This zipping that out. So I can I'll just cut the vector here and cut it here. Okay, get rid of that top part. All right, so now let's take a look at what this would look like with a toolpath real quick. So the text, this needs to go to another sheet. As a matter of fact, I got to lay out that sheet. But move to a new sheet. And let's call this my months. This is also going to be a 1/4 inch. Again, it's going to be laser engraved or V-carved or whatever, but it's just the text and everything. And we're going to probably do a cool little finger notch, so when it makes turning it easy and everything. But on that month, let's just, for right now, we'll center it on the material. There we go. All right, let's go back here real quick. Let's look at this as a toolpath and see what it looks like. So V-carve on the text. No flat depth required unless, it's going to cut through your 3/8 of an inch, but this shouldn't. 60-degree V-bit is fine for me. That'll be the days. Right? Okay. Then we're going to have our circles. They can be profile cuts or pocket cuts. I'm not going to be using tabs. I'm going to probably be using 2-sided tape on this. A pocket cut will mill all the wood away, right? So it'll just grind away all the wood all the way through. A profile cut is just one cut, but it's going to leave that disc that'll want to pop out, or it'll jam up and it could break your bit, blah, blah, blah. So, but it's just a small disc. I mean, we're using a 1/4 inch bit to mill this out. So however you want to do, I'm going to do it as a profile cut. So all the circles are going to be a profile cut, but there's no real right or wrong. It's just a little bit longer runtime as a pocket cut than versus a profile cut. We're going to cut all the way through the material, 3/8 of an inch thick. We're going to go with a 1/4 inch end mill on the inside of the line. This is our circles. 0.25 EM. Calculate. Okay. And again, it'll leave these little discs, and they're going to want to, if you have 2-sided tape and all that stuff, fine. If not, you don't really need to, I wouldn't waste time with tabs and having to sand and all that stuff, tabs away and all that. Just let them fly. No, 2-sided tape, or just do a pocket, whatever you want to do. They're not gonna. They should be fine. They'll just pop out of the hole. Okay, and then our little notch. Now, very important to know where the start point is and the end point, because I need to cut on the inside of this line. And that is my inside left if the start point was here. But if it was over here, it would be my outside right. So I've got to know where that start point is. But I need to do a profile cut. Cutting all the way through the material. That's a V-carve. I don't know why I'm in V-carve. Profile cut. Cutting all the way through the material. Same 1/4 inch bit on the inside left of the line. And this is going to be my just upper notch, top notch, whatever you want to call it. Calculate. And preview that visible toolpath. Okay. So that's what our, minus these little dots, that's what our top board is going to, our front board is going to look like. And it's going to get glued to the back board And then our middle board with our numbers is going to be able to slide in between there because there's going to be a pocket on the backboard, which we're about to create that toolpath. Okay. So how are y'all doing? Are y'all falling asleep on me? Is everybody with me? Y'all want to call it a day and finish this up tomorrow or something? It's your call. And we're already at 2 hours. And I know at a certain point of time, but we're coming down the home stretch. We just got to make our tool paths, and then we got to, our disk. We got to make our tool path for our disk and stuff. But let me know how you're doing and all that jazz. Okay. While I double click on these circles, wasting this time. Okay. All right. All good. Okay. So, John Thompson said the J in July looks to be low from the top of the board in the J in January and the J in January. The J in January. All good, all good, all good. Okay, so we'll look at that for sure. We'll make sure that we, when we spin this around. But yeah, on this circle, January, the J is here. Let me ungroup. U for ungroup. And that's because January is not snapped to the center of that. Good eye. Now I'm double clicking on. I'm making sure that each of my center points are right on that line, right? So I'm clicking, making sure that my center points are right on that line. Yep. So January had gotten moved down or up. So that's why the J looked lower. So good catch on that one. Okay. Good catch, John Thompson. Thank you. Yes, this was somehow or another January got shifted up and it wasn't centered, but now it is, right? Center point is right on that intersection. So that brings the J's all to the right level. Good eye. Good catch. Okay. And that's definitely a good catch because I was making those words go around really fast. So that was a good catch. Okay. So that's our toolpath and our, our preview for the days, right? So that's our cutout. Oh, did I just hit reset preview like a butthead? Anyhow, that's our cutout for that board. Now, let's do the number sheet real quick. Very easy. Number sheet is just again, laser engraved would look good if you got a laser engraving this, nice laser engraved numbers and all that stuff, especially on the smaller numbers and things, but also a V-carve works fine too. They're just because they're smaller, a V-carve is going to be a little bit shallower, and if you need a little bit more depth, use a narrower V-bit, right? So now remember now, this is going to be a 1/4 inch board. So there's going to be a flat depth to this as well. It's where laser really shines because it's a shallow cut anyway. If we're going to V-carve this and all, we just got to remember now we got to be less than 1/4 inch because that's how thick our material is going to be, 6 millimeter or, 1/4 or whatever, 6 millimeter ply or, 1/4. And so I'm going to limit this, just to, 3/16 so it doesn't, cut through or whatever. But I could also limit it to 1/8 or what have you. Now, there's no real need for a small flat bit. The V-bit's going to have to do all the work because these are real small letters and all. So this will be our numbers. And it's just going to be a 60 DEG V-bit. Okay. All right. Which looks really good. Nothing wrong with that at all. We'd add some color to it if we were painting it or whatever, whatever floats your boat. You could do, red on your leap years, or you could do black. You could do whatever. Sundays could be all red, and then black numbers, whatever, right? Color it up however you want, or not. Okay, so that's easy. That's our toolpath for that sheet. That takes care of that. That leaves 2 more sheets. So let's get this one done first, and then that'll give us what we need for this back one here. Okay, so just so you know, if I move this to where it's got to be positioned, on this here, these 2 boards are the same size right here, right? So if I copied this right where it's laid out, if it's laid out correctly, if I copied this to the circle and day and circle sheet, you see where it lays. It's not laid out in the correct spot. And this is important now, because we can center it on the material when we cut it out of the material. That's fine. But we're using this layout to lay out our pocket cuts for this backboard. So we need to make sure that we're in the right position. Okay? So since these 2 boards are the same size and everything, we're going to G for group, to group this together. We're going to copy it to that sheet over here, and then I'm actually going to delete this. Okay? I'm going to come back to this sheet, and I'm going to get myself laid out again where I need to be. And once again, just to verify, okay, where this is laying out here and everything, in my rotation, my 30 degrees, because we did move the January, I just want to pop over. You see we got plenty of room and where that notch is going to be. So putting January back was correct, right? All that good stuff. And, with everything, looks good. Okay. Now, this is where this lays out. Now, this is important. What I really care about most is the backboard. I need this pivot point to be in this spot. So I'm going to copy this exactly like it is to the backboard sheet, the main body back sheet. So because this is what's critical for me, is this pivot point. And also what's critical for me is the pocket. I'm doing a pocket cut because this is going to recess in. Okay? All right. Now, hang tight for just a second. This will all make sense in just a moment. All right. And don't worry that the D in the December, that's cutting out here. That's fine. That doesn't matter. Because we're going to lay it out on this board centers because we're going to cut it out. But now, on my notch here, right? So remember, this notch is gone. And I want my circle is going to have little notches for like little finger notches and all. So when I lay this back out over here, I'm going to do my offset. We'll create all that in just a minute. But what's important now is this. This center pivot point position is the only thing that's important right now for right now here. Okay. So on this sheet, I don't need anything. I can hit ungroup. I don't need anything except for that center pivot. Okay. So I can get rid of everything except for that center pivot point right there. I need that staying right there where it is. Now I can take this, come back over here, And I can move this back over to, I don't need to copy, I can move it back over to my months here. And I can center this back on my board because this is going to be another 1/4 inch board we're cutting out. And it doesn't have to be positioned like that. It can be centered, but it needed to be positioned like this for this pivot point right here. Very important. So I can go ahead and center this back up on the material. All right, we're almost done. Almost done. Here we go. I need to create my offset line. So on this circle, I'm offsetting this outward, and I want it to come just right above the December. So I'm going to offset outward. Oh, hold on. Do I have something centered? Hold on a second. Do I have something selected that's not supposed to be selected? What? Hold on, I got to go into node editing. I'm getting a weird error. I think it has to do with this circle here is open. It never closed. Remember when I cut those little arcs earlier, I never really closed that circle. So it was giving me an error, and there's always a reason for something. You just got to figure out what it is. And so it was telling me that it was going to create too many loops if I offset it, and it wasn't letting me offset it. And the reason being is because the circle wasn't a closed circle, it was open. So now I can offset that outward, to get, and I'm going to go a little bit more than that. Let's go a 1/2 inch. Okay, good. Now, I'm lazy, right? I don't want a smooth surface. I want to be able to turn this really easily. So I'd like to have little notches, like little finger notches, almost like a knurling, if you will, kind of on this circle, right? And so it's important now. This is going to be my profile cut too. So it's very important to me that whatever bit I'm using to cut this out with, it fits, right? So my knurls, I don't want to make some weird, funky little size that my bit's not going to fit into when it's cutting out this profile, okay? So I'm actually going to, on my little circle here, I'm going to make it just slightly larger than my bit. Now, on this one, I could do 1/4 inch notches all the way around, or I could do 1/8 inch, however I want my little gripper to be, right? My little gripper. So it could be an 1/8 inch, it could be whatever, but whatever it is, I want to make sure that I give myself just a few thousandths of an inch. I can even go 0.13, whatever. I just want to give myself a little bit of room so my bit fits in there very easily, and everything. And I would be using an 1/8 inch end mill for this particular cutout on a 1/4 inch sheet, right? So whatever size seems is smart for me for like my little finger grabs kind of thing. Now 1/8 of an inch is a little bit too small. That's like a little knurling all the way around, which is fine. It would probably look good, right? Could give it a try and all. But in this case, I think I'm just going to go with, I'm still going to use an 1/8 inch end mill. But I think I'm going to go with a kind of a 0.2 on this. And I want to make sure that I'm centered and snapped in, locked in to center. Come on now. Make sure that I'm locked in there. Okay. And because I'm pivoting around that pivot point here, this pivot point here. The pivot point is different from all the other ones. It's 5.5 and 4.62, that kind of thing. That's my center point. And well, first of all, let me grab that number. I always grab the odd number, copy it, because when I come in here to my circular array tool, my odd number, I can just paste that in, and then this is the 5.5, right? So, and now I'm going to go more than 12. I'm probably going to go like, 30 all the way around and see what my spacing is. I'm thinking about, that grip, that spacing. 30 too far apart for me. Let's 60 is good. That'll give me a nice little finger grab and everything and all. And then that's good. All right, now this is the tedious part. Okay, so I'm going to make it easy on myself. I'm going to end up having to trim away these two lines here, and I'm going to be using what's called the subtract tool. So when I do that circular array, right, while they're selected, I'm going to hit G for group. Okay. And I'm going to select the circle first, hold down the shift key and select the group last, which is my second item selected. And I'm going to use the subtract second from the first. And that's going to take those notches out. Okay? Yes, I'll be deleting all the lines in just a minute. But that gives me those little notches. Okay? That's my little sprocket that I'm going to be able to turn. Okie dokie. Okie dokie. Okay. Now, this, I'm going to create my toolpath. So let's ungroup everything. All right. And at this point in time, ladies and gentlemen, there's a few things I do not need. Okay. I do not need the lines or this inner circle. I no longer need the lines or the inner circle. Everything is laid out for this particular cut. I'm done with, I need the center point. That's important for me to keep. But I can get rid of all the lines. All right, and now for my tool pass, we'll have a V-carve toolpath. This will be my months. 60 DEG V bit. Now, again, this is on a small 1/4 inch piece of plywood. So if I'm worried about cutting through, I can set the flat depth to that 0.1875. It rounded up to 0.188, but I can set that flat depth. We're almost done, ladies and gentlemen. We're literally at the home stretch. Stick with me. Set that flat depth just to ensure that I don't cut all the way through, right? There you go. All right, so we're going to calculate that toolpath. That's going to be our, our dates and everything. And ladies and gentlemen, if I needed a shallower cut, just for example, if I needed it to be this size, I didn't want to put a flat depth in. I needed a shallower cut because I'm V-carving it, and my material's not quite 1/4 inch thick. It's 7/32, that blah blah blah. I could use a 90-degree V bit, and that'll provide me a shallower cut. I just don't want to be too shallow. I don't want to be too shallow, but if I need to shallow it up, I don't want to change my text size. I don't want to change the width. I don't want to change this. I want to change that. I just need to change how deep it cuts. I don't want to set a flat depth, and I want it to kind of really V cut, honestly. But I can limit it to that 3/16. But any more than that, I would use a narrower V-bit or a wider V-bit to shallow it up, which would be like a 90. Okay. All right, so we got that. So the next toolpath is my little pivot here. This is a 1/4 inch hole, so it's just going to be a drilling toolpath. Now, I'm going to be smart about this. I'm going to be using an 1/8 inch end mill to cut this, so I'm going to use a pocket toolpath with an 1/8 inch bit, so I don't have to change bits on this particular sheet. So pocket cut, cutting through my material, and I got to remember to go in and change the material thickness to 1/4 inch on this. I'm going to be cutting on the inside of the line, and I'm going to be using an 1/8 inch end mill. And this is going to be my center point, center pivot, center hole. Here, I'll do this. It's going to be my month center hole. 0.125 EM end mill. Okay. And then the final cut on this is going to be my profile cut. And again, if you're going to use tabs, that's fine. If you're going to use two-sided tape, that's fine. Whatever you need to do, right? Now, if I am using plywood, I'm going to go back into this, and I'm going to make sure that my thickness of my material is the 7/32, not 1/4 inch. I'm going to make sure my cut depth is the correct thickness. I don't want to cut into my wasteboard and beat up my wasteboard. I'm going to make everything the right depths. Right now, I'm just using round numbers, assuming it's a 1/4 inch thick board, which we know it's not going to be if we're cutting it out of plywood, right? Right? So put in the appropriate numbers and all that stuff. Right now, I'm using round numbers just to kind of get through this. This is going to be my month profile cutout. 0.125 end mill. All right. Now I will make this whole file available for digital download. I'll put it in the description of the video, but that you just have to give me a little bit because I will clean it up to the actual appropriate thicknesses of the material and all. Now, let's preview that visible toolpath. Oh, hold on. I'm an idiot. I need to be on the outside of the line for that one. Outside of the line. I thought, man, I'm close on that. And let's see right there. Let's go to the sheet real quick. My months needs to be edited to be for now, I'm just saying 1/4 inch, but I'll change it to the appropriate plywood size and all that stuff. But for right now, let's preview that again. Okay. That'll be our little turn wheel. Okay. All right. Now the final cut. I'm going to take and on here, my diameter of this circle diameter was 8.04, 6 or something like that. I'm going to draw the circle back. What am I doing here? Hold on. Let me go back to my design here. I'm going to draw my circle back. I'm going to radiate from here to here, right? That circle. Because I'm going to take this. We know that this and this center hole, they're centered of each other. Okay, here. They're centered of one another. Okay? Important. They're centered of one another. So I'm going to take this circle and I'm going to copy it to that backboard sheet. And I'm going to take this circle, select it first, this pivot point, select it second, and I'm going to align to the center of that second item. Okay. And this vector, this is going to be a pocket cut because this disc that we're cutting out is going to sit inside this pocket. Okay. Now, it's important that, and it's okay this is open because remember the letters are going to be above, going to have those finger holes above, right? You know, and all that stuff is going to be notched out here. It'll all come together. So this is going to be important. So now here's the important thing. We have this number sheet that's going to be in here too. Okay. So this number sheet on this board, the board for the number sheet is going to be narrower. Okay. I got to make it a little bit smaller on its height and everything. It's going to be like 9 inches or whatever because there's going to be a pocket cut out here for that to fit in. Okay. Slide back and forth. So there's going to be, and let's pop over and do that really quickly. This rectangle here, it's going to be the full width or full length and all, but the width, I'm actually going to be bringing this down or bringing this in. Like this, and then here. Okay. And how that's drawn right there, that's what my sheet, that's going to be a profile cut for my sheet. And then what size is that? That is 7 that is 7.6. 7.6. I wonder if I could go like a 1x8. Well, let's say I already got 1x10s there, so that's fine. We'll just cut it out. You'll have a little bit of waste. I could probably bring this down to 7 1/4. Yeah, I mean, I could do 7 1/4, so it could be a 1x8 on this particular, but it's plywood, so it's going to be a sheet, so we can cut it to any size that we want, right? So let's not be too crazy there. But whatever size, and what we're going to do is we'll go 7 and 3/8. So let's 7.375. That'll be our number. But now I want radius corner. I'd like it to be smooth. I want radius corner because we're cutting this out, right? So little radius corners here. Let me first of all, let's do this. Let's make sense here. I'm going to select this. I'm going to hit G for group. I'm going to select this rectangle first, this group last, and I'm going to align that first item to the second item. And that's centered. That's good. All right. And then on this one, I'm going to go, I'm going to copy it over to the backer sheet. So it copies where it's supposed to. And then I want to actually put, on this particular rectangle, I want to put radiuses on. Let's go with 3/8 inch radius. We could probably go 1/2 inch. Let me see what 1/2 inch looks like. Yeah, 1/2 inch is fine. 1/2 inch radius. All right, so the toolpath, one more toolpath on this sheet is a profile cut to cut this out. Profile, cutting all the way through the material on the outside of the cut. Let me see here. What am I doing? I got a 1/4 inch bit there. This sheet, I'll be doing my plywood sheets, right? So I have an 1/8 inch end mill. I'll just use an 1/8 inch end mill. That way it'll minimize my tool changes. When I'm changing my wood, I can keep my tools in. So cutting out, this will be the numbers profile cutout. We're almost done. One more toolpath after this. 2 more toolpaths after this and we're done. Profile cut out. 0.125 end mill. All right, so what we'll have there is this will look like this. Okay, that'll be the sheet that's going to be sliding back and forth. All right, cool beans. Okay. Looks good. All right, now on this one, let's go over here and finish up our tool pass. On this one, this is literally exactly where it's cutting out here. It doesn't need to be this big, of course. We just want to go past the edge just a little bit because we get it. So we want a clean pocket. Past the edge just a little bit. At least 1/8 of an inch because we're using a 1/4 inch bit. But we're going to have 2 pocket cuts. And then we're going to have this little center pivot, which is going to be, well, we don't need it. The pocket cut's going to keep the part centered. It'll rotate in the pocket. So we don't need that center hole. That was just there for alignment. All right, first cut is going to be this pocket cut, and we're going to cut down. We got to at least cut the thickness of our material plus a little bit. So it's got to slide easy, okay? Not a lot. It doesn't need to be sloppy. We don't want sloppy. We want a nice cut, all right? So, again, I'm using round numbers here. I'm going to say 1/4 of an inch. I'll go 0.26 instead of 0.25, but I'm going to change all the numbers to the plywood thicknesses, or 7/32, right, for a 1/4 inch plywood, which 7/32 is 0.21875, right? Not 0.25. So I would make my pocket, 0.22 or 0.23, just a little bit of wiggle room on the depth. Not that it's sloppy. I don't want it flopping. I want it stiff. When I move it and put it in position for the numbers, I want friction to kind of help it stay there. You know what I mean? I don't want it flimsy. I don't want someone to be able to bump it accidentally. I want to actually have to be able to kind of move, not hard, but I want to be able to move it. So I'll change all the numbers on the files that I actually upload for download for you. But for right now, I'm just using round numbers for our headaches, right? So I'm going to go 0.26, just 10 thousandths more than 1/4 of an inch deep. All right, so this is going to be my number board pocket. Number board pocket. 0.25 end mill. Calculate that tool path. Okay. That's going to be, what was that? Was that a profile tool path that I set that up on? Yes. Yes. I'm an idiot. Hold on a minute. Pocket cut, ladies and gentlemen. 0.26. Number board. Almost there. Pocket. Stick with me. 0.25 end mill. And calculate. Delete this one. All right, one more time. Sorry, one more time. Pocket that out. Okay, so Okay, so that's our pocket cut for that. Now, the circle cutout is going to go that 1/4 of an inch plus another 1/4 because of it's going to go behind this board, okay? So this cutout, this pocket cut, we've already, milled away this material here, but this material is still there. So we got to kind of start from, 0. Okay, so when it's doing this lower part, it's going to be kind of carving air, or you can carve this one first and then carve this. Either way, it's got to start at 0, and it's going to cut the 0.26 times 2 would be 0.52, right? 0.52. 0.52. Calculate. Preview the visible toolpath. Now, I am on this one, this pocket is going 0.262, so there's a 10,007-inch difference. That's going to give me a little bit of space, one where I can move easy, but also it's going to give me a little space from the backboard. So how this works is that disc is going to go and it's going to sit in there, okay, and it's just going to rotate in that pocket. The flat board, the number board, is going to sit in this pocket. It's going to slide back and forth. And then our front board with our numbers, after we put our circle in, put our flat number board in, this top board, this 3/8 of an inch top board, is going to get glued to that backboard for the full assembly. Now, very important. It's real important. We don't want glue squeeze out on the inside here, okay, to affect that number board. So the number board can slide all the way, it literally can slide all the way out, right? So don't have the number board in there when you're gluing this up, but you got to have the disc in there. It's in there, right? The disc has got to stay in there and all. But you're going to, when this gets glued together, you're going to have kind of a 1/4 inch, gap in there. You'll be able to get some kind of scraper if you need and all, but just don't be excessive with the glue here, and put the glue a little closer to the outside edge versus the inside, so when it clamps down, the glue squeeze out, hopefully the squeeze out will come out more this way than it will the other way, okay? And if there's anything to clean out, hell, you can make, you can use this is only 9 inches. I mean, you could use a long screwdriver with a narrow handle. You can use a small something stiff and narrow that you can get in there and kind of scrape, the glue out or whatever you need to do. But there's going to be some glue squeeze out. We want to make sure that, the glue squeeze out in these 2 areas and here don't affect the number board. Now, once the front is glued on to the backboard, we'll now be able to, we'll have a little turn thing that we can turn those letters. And then we'll have the backboard that can slide back and forth. Okay? That's that. So that's it. That's all the toolpaths and everything. So you made it through. If you stuck with me this long, you made it through. You can, Brooks, you can put a pivot hole in there, but this is actually sitting in this pocket. It can't rotate off center. It's literally going to be, and on this pocket, and that reminds me of something very important. On this pocket cut, the offset allowance, I need it to go past that pocket right there, the circle pocket. I need it to go past by 2,000 of an inch. So negative 0.002. That way it turns easy. 20,000 inch. So what that means is it's going to go just past the line. It's going to make my pocket just a little bit bigger so it turns easy. But it's going to be pivoting in this disc. That front number board is going to be over the top of it, so the disc can't lift or anything, and it can only pivot in that circle. It can only turn in the circle. So it doesn't necessarily need that center pivot hole. But if you're like, I still want it to be on the center pivot hole, that's fine. Make the hole a little bit deeper, go 0.6, put your little peg in there, make sure that there's a little peg hole in this one. All that's fine if you want to do that, but it's not necessary because it's actually going to be trapped inside that pocket already. It can only pivot in that pocket. You know what I mean? It can't flop around. Know what I got? Know what I mean? All right, so disc goes in, top board with the holes and the days, go on and gets glued together. Make sure you're all lined up and all that wonderful stuff. And then the day board can slide into place. And then you've got that. Now, as far as what you want to do on the back for hanging this, keyhole slots and all that stuff, you can flip it over. You can put keyhole slots where you don't need to make it a two-sided job. You can put keyhole slots wherever you want. Just flip it over, re-zero out your X and Y, and put your keyholes in. But now this design, just like that image I showed you a minute ago, this is the last kind of talk verbally. But you can, that same thing. Now, here's the difference with this one. The backboard and the days and the months are all one thing, right? They have a groove here, and then there's this little front eye visual window. There's a little piece that's glued to the back of it, so it actually slides and rides on that notch, right? It rides on that notch, and you're not seeing, are you seeing what? Yeah, okay. It rides on this notch right here. And the same thing with this, there's a little back piece with a notch on it that's glued to the back of this piece right here, and it rides, and it's actually the front piece that slides, right? The numbers stay stationary sitting on the desk. And the same thing, if we look at another desktop version, right, which isn't as let me say this image, which isn't as clean, but all right, so this one, the front piece, this sits on the table. I don't like the way this looks. It's kind of just a little chintzy, but the front piece slides, right? It slides back and forth, so it rides on the top there. There's a piece that hooks on the back. And then one last one for the benchtop models. For the benchtop models, here's another one. Same thing, just contrasting woods, right? But it sits on the desk or whatever. You can make your supports, your back supports, however you want, a triangular piece, whatever. But this is all made out of plywood. It's mostly laser cut and stuff, right? So this slides on that groove across, here, and this whole square thing with the numbers slides there. So that's your benchtop versions of this, right? And so they're a little bit different layout, but same. Notice the 2 through 14, 9 through 21, 16 through 28, and then the 23 and 30, 24 and 31. Same layout, same numbers, right? So there's that consistency. Look at the numbers: 2 through 14, 9, 6 through 17. Same thing. Okay. From this version. Now, this version has the same this version here has the same. Give me a second. It has the same kind of appeal as Bear with me just a second. I'm trying to find. Same appeal as, same kind, not of appeal, but same kind of similar kind of thing as, let me get it to open up here. As this, right? Now, you notice now in this one, look at this one here as an example, you know, for inspiration and stuff. You see how they made this actually taller and wider here? And they actually were able to customize it with a logo for businesses or for people or for sports or for whatever floats your boat, right? If you're customizing something like this for carving and selling or whatever, you might maybe want to put, you know, chickens or roosters or a farm or whatever, right? You may want to put some kind of logo or decal. So you see how they made this taller here, and you know, so they could put a logo above the days of the week. And now this the months, same kind of scenario. It pivots. There's a circle in here somewhere. There's a circle in there, and it pivots, you know, all the months pivot on that circle under there and all. Same concept. I mean, I didn't come up with this originally, you know. This is all you know, I mean, it's a perpetual calendar. You know, this design is for hanging on the wall and everything. So there's your parts. That's it, ladies and gentlemen. I'll make this it's going to be for 3/4 inch solid wood material. The front board will be 3/8 solid wood. And then the slider board and the rotating board will be for 1/4 inch plywood. I'll make sure all the appropriate numbers match. I'll post the link for download in the subject or the description of this video on YouTube. And then I'll post a link in the community and on Facebook when it's available for download. I'll post a post so you know that it's available for download. And hey, you know, you can make it taller, you can make it bigger, you can add that logo, you can do whatever you want. Now you have a little bit of a layout. Make this one as your first one, right? And then from there, go wild as, oh, I could make this bigger, I could add this, I could do that, I could, you know, hell, the front could be some kind of almost three-dimensional carving where there's texture to it, whatever, right? I mean, at that point, you can take it as far as you want to take it. This is the base, the starting point. This gets you making that wall-hanging calendar, and then from there, you can take it to whatever size, whatever you want, right? That kind of thing. Whatever cool graphics, whatever cool design. It doesn't have to be all plain Jane. This could have all kinds of the front board around the numbers and all. I mean, there's not a whole lot of room on the front board. But anyway, you know, you could do whatever you want with that. Okay? Everybody, y'all have a wonderful evening. Thanks for sticking around with me for this long length of period of time. I'll post when the links are ready. And until then, we will catch y'all on the flip side. All right. Thanks for sticking with me. Thanks, guys and girls. Have a great one. And yes, finish with wax on the wheels and the numbers so it slides easy. A nice little beeswax, you know, would be good. Close to the grain finish and all. So that'll work. All right. See you later, everybody. Thanks for the hangout.